Some Pokemon have extremely min-max stat spreads. Mega Beedrill has very high attack and speed stats, but its special attack is among the absolute worst in the game. But what's up, fellas? My name is Matt, and today we're looking at the opposite end of the spectrum. Let's check out the Pokemon with perfectly balanced stats. Insert some kind of Infinity War joke here. Alright, let's get started.
What's up? I'm Elias, and the weakest Pokemon with this property is Sunkern. It's got 30 points in all 6 stat categories, resulting in a base stat total of 180. For many years, Sunkern also had the lowest total in the entire series. Depending on who you ask, it still does. The only Pokemon that beats it out nowadays is Wishiwashi, but only sometimes.
When Wishiwashi's in its solo form, this bad boy, emphasis on bad, has a base stat total of just 175. But once it hits level 20, its ability Schooling can activate. As long as it stays above a quarter of its max HP, it'll be in its School form, which has a base stat total of 620. That's on par with many legendaries and mega evolutions, so it's an absolutely massive upgrade.
Unlike Wishiwashi, Sunkern gets jack squat. It doesn't have some kind of hyperflower form that makes it stronger, and between you and me, its evolution Sunflora isn't very good either. Even though Sunkern has such low stats, it's nowhere near the weakest Pokemon in the game. Unlike other fellas like Magikarp and Cosmog, Sunkern has more than a handful of moves to choose from. It's also got useful abilities like Solar Power and Chlorophyll, which can activate with Sunny Day. You'd have to be insane to bring a Sunkern to any kind of serious battle, but there are worse Pokemon out there at least. That counts for something, right?
That, I think, is the first time I've ever assigned you 2 paragraphs in a row and you actually read them without me pointing it out.
I'm doing it, guys.
He's doing the YouTube thing. Everybody leave nice comments about him.
Everybody make fun of Matt.
The next weakest Pokemon with balanced stats is Tyrogue. It's a pure fighting type with 35 points in each category. This time, the balanced stats serve a functional purpose. This guy evolves into the 3 Hitmons at level 20, and which one you get depends on how its attack and defense stats compare. If its attack stat is higher when you evolve, you'll get Hitmonlee. If its defense is higher, you'll get Hitmonchan instead. Not gonna lie, that is a little strange, because Hitmonchan's attack is also higher than its defense, but whatever.
Since Tyrogue has 35 in both base stat categories, it's fairly easy to swing your stats in one direction or another. If you want to Hitmonlee, you can earn attack EVs by knocking out Pokemon like Ekans and Mankey. If you're going for a Hitmonchan, you'll need defense EVs instead, which you can get from something like Cubone or Shelter.
If Tyrogue's attack and defense—
Hold on, I hear Lilac meowing at my door.
Are you letting her in?
She's in, and I told her that she's only allowed to mess up the recording one time, which she is on her way to do right now.
If Tyrogue's attack and defense stats are the same, it'll evolve into Hitmontop. Having the same base stats and attack and defense is much appreciated here, because that makes getting this evolution easier. Unfortunately, easier doesn't mean easy in this case. It's still way harder to get Hitmontop compared to Hitmonlee and Hitmonchan. Even if you balance your EV training between attack and defense, you still might not get Hitmontop, because there are other variables that influence your stats. Tyrogue might be born with an unfavorable set of DVs in Gen 2, and it also might have a bad nature or set of IV starting in Gen 3.
Let's say you've got a Tyrogue with the most lopsided attack and defense stats possible. That means it's got something like 31 attack IVs, no defense IVs, and a lonely nature, which raises attack and lowers defense even further. If it has no EVs, it'll have 27 attack and 17 defense at level 20, which is a massive difference. If you want it to evolve into Hitmontop in this case, you need at least 220 EVs in defense and none in attack. Why are you being so clingy right now, Lilac? I don't understand,
Lilac just highlighted like 4 paragraphs, didn't she?
Yeah, she did.
Man, what is it with these cats in your computer? Since Tyrogue's stats are balanced, it's always possible to get any evolution you want, even if you can't change its IVs or nature. Even if it has the lowest possible defense and the highest possible attack, you can still get Hitmonchan by postponing its evolution and earning even more defense EVs. The other stats also being 35 doesn't make a difference in that regard, but having the same base attack and defense stats makes things slightly easier.
Next up is a Pokemon who rarely ever uses its own base stats, with one major exception. Ditto has 48 in every stat, but its main gimmick is turning into other Pokemon. When you use its only move Transform, you copy the opposing Pokemon's moves and ability, as well as most of their stats.
For a while, there was no reason to use Ditto in most serious battles. Its whole gimmick was using Transform, but there's another Pokemon that can learn it. Not only is Mew a million times more versatile than Ditto, but it also has better stats across the board by a long shot. You also have to spend a turn using Transform, and even when you do that, Ditto would usually be a worse version of your opponent's Pokemon.
When you use Transform, you keep your original HP stat. Since Ditto has just 48 base HP, it's usually going to be frailer than the Pokemon it's copying, often by a considerable margin. Taking the time to set up your Ditto isn't worth it because the payoff is often disappointing at best, but Ditto got an incredible new tool in Gen 5. Thanks to its new hidden ability Imposter, Ditto can now transform as soon as it enters the battle. That completely eliminates the mandatory setup turn, which made Ditto considerably more useful. Ouch! Ow!
And Lilac's getting kicked out, isn't she?
No, but she is being like really annoying right now.
Copying your opponent's speed stat is usually an issue, because that means every turn will be a speed tie, but you can give Ditto the advantage by having it hold a Choice Scarf. Thanks to these new tools, Ditto has found niches in many competitive formats. It can make quite a bit of a splash in Ubers, since that's where most of the strongest Pokemon are hanging out. Ditto can function as a revenge killer, by using your opponent's roided up legendary against them. Ditto also copies the opponent's stats stages when it transforms, which makes it more effective against Pokemon with setup moves.
Aside from that, Ditto can also make eggs with any breedable Pokemon. That makes it a great asset for competitive and shiny breeding alike. If you have a Ditto with perfect or near perfect IVs, it becomes easier to pass them down to other Pokemon. If you have a Ditto from a different language, you can use the Masuda method to find shiny Pokemon faster. Normally, when you breed two Pokemon, the game will only roll for shininess once, but if their languages don't match, it'll roll 4 to 6 times depending on which game you're playing.
Next up is Snorunt, whose stats are just marginally better than Ditto's. This little fella has 50 in every stat for a grand total of 300. Grand might not be the right word here. That total is a wee bit lower than starter Pokemon. But wait, there's more. Snorunt's evolution, Glalie, also has a balanced stat spread. It's got 80 across the board, which gives it a total of 480.
Glalie's stats aren't terribly impressive, to be completely frank. Having 80 in each stat means it's not particularly good at anything. It's not that strong, it's not that fast, and it's not that bulky. Over the years, its main role in singles is setting up spikes. You can also use Taunt and Explosion to keep spikes up and to prevent your opponent from setting up their own hazards. But if its hidden ability wasn't banned, Glalie would be capable of a whole lot more.
Good morning, fellas. This is the first video we're recording after my trip to Los Angeles. I went out there for a week to go see The Price is Right. You guys should watch it on CBS on these dates. See if I get called down. Moody is an absolutely insane sounding ability, and it's also bonkers in practice. At the end of each turn, Moody drops one of Glalie's stats by 1 stage at random, but raises another stat by 2 stages. So the game plan with Moody Glalie is simple. Step 1, use Substitute and Protect to waste a few turns and wait for some good stat boosts. Step 2, you are now a Wrecking Ball. Wreck accordingly.
Once you have high enough stats, you can use moves like Ice Beam and Earthquake to delete your opponent's team in record time. Moody is banned in most standard Smogon metagames because your stats spiral out of control incredibly quickly. It's so strong that it even makes Bidoof overpowered. This Goofus Maloofus could clean house with Moody, and its stats are 1,000 times worse than Glalie's.
Glalie's stat spread is also identical to a mythical question mark? Phione is kind of a weird case, because sometimes it's classified as a mythical Pokemon, and sometimes it isn't. Whatever you want to call it, Phione also has 80 points in everything. Glalie and Phione are quite a strange pair, though.
Hey! No doing that. No claws on the monitor. Okay, you're going outside. Hold on. There are plenty of Pokemon that have identical stat distributions, but they usually have some sort of connection. Charmander and Cyndaquil are both Fire-type starters, and their evolutions have the same stats as each other as well. Xerneas and Yveltal are both boxed legendaries for the same pair of games, and the same goes for Zacian and Zamazenta, who have the exact same stat distribution in their hero forms. Yeah, the Sword and Shield Pokemon have exactly the same base stats. Go figure. Silcoon
and Cascoon are Wurmple's 2 branched evolutions, and they also have the same stat spread. The Elemental Monkeys have the same stats as each other, and that goes for both stages of their evolution lines. Unlike all these other Pokemon, though, Glalie and Phione have virtually nothing in common besides their stats.
There's another set of 6 Pokemon with identical stats, and they're also perfectly balanced. From Gens 1 through 5, we got at least one mythical Pokemon with 100 in every stat per generation. Mew, Celebi, Jirachi, Manaphy, Shaman's Landform, and Victini all have that stat spread, which gives them a base stat total of 600. Mythicals are almost always banned in VGC, but all of these Pokemon have made waves in Smogon singles.
Good morning, fellas. You should check out our live streams. We don't really have a set schedule, but Elias is going to be streaming a little bit. I'm going to be streaming a little bit, so come hang out with us. Smile. Mew's defining characteristic is its move pool. It can learn every TM and HM, as well as the vast majority of tutor moves. That means Mew can do just about anything it wants, because it has so many moves to choose from. Over the years, it's been used as a lead, an offensive sweeper, and a stall breaker, among many other roles. Celebi started out as a utility/support Pokemon, using moves like Heal Bell, Leech Seed, and Stealth Rock, but over the years, it's been used as a setup sweeper more often.
Jirachi is an annoying little snot. Its ability Serene Grace doubles the odds of secondary effects triggering, which pairs well with moves that can immobilize the target. Body Slam and Thunder have a 60% chance to paralyze, and Iron Head infamously has a 60% chance to flinch. Manaphy can learn the move Tail Glow, which is one of the best boosting options in the game. It raises your special attack by 3 stages with no drawback. So despite having the same special attack as fellas like Mew and Celebi, Manaphy is able to hit harder than them.
Victini's signature move is V-Create, which is one of the strongest attacks in the game. It's got an absurd base power of 180, but it lowers your defense, special defense, and speed by 1 stage each. If you don't want to deal with that drawback, you can go for its other signature move instead. Searing Shot is a 100 base power move with no negative effects, but it does have a 30% chance to burn the target. For whatever reason, Victini can also learn many of Reshiram, Zekrom, and Kyurem signature moves through events, so it's got a pretty unusual move pool.
Shaman's landform is similar to Celebi in a couple of ways. Aside from their stats, they both have Natural Cure as their ability, and they also share the grass typing. Unlike Celebi though, Shaman isn't a psychic type, which means it's not double weak to U-turn. Shaman also has a signature move in the form of Seed Flare. It's only 85% accurate, but it's got a high base power, and a 40% chance to lower the target's special defense by 2 stages. Either way though, it's overshadowed by Shaman's Skyform, which has a secondary flying type, a better stat spread, and access to Serene Grace.
Alright, let's go back and look at a couple of weaker Pokemon, shall we? Spinda has 60 in every stat, which makes its base stat total 360. That could very well be a reference, because that's the number of degrees in a circle. It moves in a dizzy and unsteady manner, and it's got the word spin in its name, as in spinning in circles. So its base stat total being a reference to circles would make a good deal of sense.
Spinda isn't very strong, but it's well known for the patterns on its body. Each Spinda has 4 spots, and their positions are randomized based on secret values. In Gens 3 through 5, they're based on Spinda's personality value, and starting in Gen 6, they're based on its encryption constant. You may have heard that the total number of patterns is 2 to the 32nd power, or roughly 4.3 billion. That's mostly true, but there are a couple of asterisks attached to that number.
There are a few ways for 2 spot patterns to be visually identical. It's possible for spots to completely overlap, and they can also become invisible if they're placed off of Spinda's body entirely. With that in mind, the total number of distinguishable patterns is slightly less than 4 billion. Either way, that's still a metric ton of possibilities. If you have a shiny Spinda, there's a very good chance it's one of a kind in the entire world. Hello, Elias, do you have any shiny Spinda?
I don't know what a shiny Spinda looks like. I saw a shiny Leafeon for the first time the other day.
Nice.
Thought it was a normal Leafeon.
Yeah, that seems about right.
These spot patterns cause issues in a handful of modern games. Spinda's encryption constant is stored as an 8-digit hexadecimal number, which can be split further into 4 bytes. Normally, this value is meant to be Little Endian, which means the bytes should be read from right to left. But in Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, the encryption constant is treated as Big Endian instead, which causes the bytes to be read backwards.
Nearly every single Spinda has the wrong spot pattern in BDSP, which makes it incompatible with other games. Due to this glitch, Spinda can't be transferred into or out of BDSP through Pokemon Home. But wait, there's more, and it's worse. Spinda can't enter or leave Pokemon Go for different reasons. In that game, Spinda only has 9 possible patterns, instead of the normal 4 billion or so. If you want to transfer a Spinda into Pokemon Home, you have to bring one in from the 3DS app Pokemon Bank, which you can no longer download. Wonderful.
Next up is Castform, which has 70 in every stat. That makes its base stat total 420. And no, we're not going to make jokes about that number. Those stats are also disappointingly low, but Castform does have a neat gimmick. It changes forms to match the weather, usually thanks to its ability Forecast. During harsh sunlight, it becomes a fire type. During rain, it's a water type, and during hail, it's an ice type. But Castform doesn't have a sand form, so it'll stay in its normal form if a sandstorm starts. In this essay, I will present my unhinged conspiracy theory that sand does not exist. First of all, sand is not a specific compound by itself. It's actually created from quartz, rock, limestone, and other debris that erode over time due to water content piling over them and form like rivers and stuff, right? So sand is not actually a real
Since Castform has 70 in every category, it's just kind of bad at everything. It's especially bad at dealing physical damage though, because its move pool is almost entirely made up of special moves. Aside from normal type attacks, the only physical moves Castform can learn are Thief and Avalanche. On the special side, it has way more moves to choose from.
Since it's got sun, rain, and hail specific forms, it can logically learn a bunch of fire, water, electric, grass, and ice type moves. On top of that, it also learns Shadow Ball for no reason. That's fun. So Castform would be better off having less attack, because then you could give those leftover points to more useful stats. It still probably wouldn't be good, but that would be a step in the right direction.
Let's look at the strongest Pokemon with a balanced stat spread, followed by a diet version. Arceus is also a mythical Pokemon, but it's got even higher stats than you and friends. It has 120 in every stat for a base stat total of 720. When Arceus was first released, that was the highest total in the entire series, which is pretty natural for the god of all Pokemon. Since then, it's been surpassed by a few Mega Evolutions, the Primals, Ultra Necrozma, and Eternamax Eternatus.
Not only does Arceus have incredibly high stats, but it's also unbelievably versatile. If you don't do anything fancy, this guy is a normal type. It's one of the few normal type Pokemon that can learn extreme speed, which is an incredible trait. This move is stronger and faster than most other priority attacks, and Arceus gets stab on it too. The only other fully evolved normal type that can learn extreme speed these days is Linoone.
On top of that, Arceus can also learn Swords Dance, which pairs very well with extreme speed. So not only does it get stab, but Swords Dance makes it even stronger, which makes Arceus an effective physical sweeper. This set has been colloquially dubbed Extreme Killer Arceus. This guy can demolish you in battle and still get home in time to watch Wheel of Fortune in the evening. That's such a dumb joke, I should cut that.
But Gen 4 introduced a set of plates for each type. You can give them to any Pokemon and they'll function like the enhancing items do. The Charcoal is the standard fire boosting item, but you can give a flame plate to achieve the exact same effect. The plates can also change Arceus' type, which is where its next level versatility comes from. If you give Arceus a flame plate, it'll turn into a water type Pokemon.
Extremely loud, incorrect buzzer.
It'll turn into a fire type Pokemon. Its signature move, Judgment, will also change types to match and get boosted by 20%. That makes the move's effective power 120. Not bad. You can also change types by using Z crystals instead of plates.
We're like running out of pronunciations at this point. Arceus can become any type it wants, and thanks to Judgment, it'll always have a strong stab move to go along with said type. It also has a wide selection of coverage moves to pick from, as well as stuff like Calm Mind or Recover to improve its longevity. Arceus can do all sorts of things in various Ubers formats, but if we tried to list them all, we'd be here all day. Go watch this False Swipe gaming video after this one to learn more.
Awesome. So what if Arceus was worse in every way? Well, you would get the legendary Pokemon Silvally. This guy was introduced in Gen 7, and it's got 95 in every stat. Its ability RKS system is just multi-type with fewer calories. By holding the right memory, Silvally can change types, and its signature move multi-attack will change along with it.
Let me tell you something. Elias and I have been going to the gym together. We have to adjust the machines in between every set because he's so much taller than I am. So really a lot of the time we spend at the gym is just both of us making fun of me for being short. Everybody leave nice comments about Elias and call me short.
I want to see exactly 50% short comments and 50% I love Elias comments.
Unlike Arceus' plates though, Silvally's memories don't function as type-enhancing items. Not only that, but multi-attack was just 90 base power, which is lower than Judgment's base power of 100. Silvally was designed to be a boneless Arceus in universe though, so these differences do make sense. In any case, Game Freak did throw out one bone in Gen 8. Multi-attack got buffed to 120 power.
That's a fairly nice upgrade, but Silvally still isn't terribly strong. Most of its forms are in Zero Used, or ZU for short. That's the lowest standard tier of competitive singles, which is not great. But a couple of its forms are ranked in Never Used, which is 2 tiers up. Silvally Steel is NU in Gen 7, and Silvally Ground is NU in Gen 8. That's still a far cry from Airchise, which is in Ubers in every generation.
Having 6 stats that are exactly the same does come with some issues. We mentioned Mega Beedrill at the very start of the video, and it benefits immensely from min-max stats. Special moves have always been terrible on Beedrill, because the normal form's base special attack is just 45. Beedrill also just doesn't learn a lot of special moves in the first place, so physical attacks are almost always the way to go.
If a Pokemon doesn't know any special moves, which is usually the case with Beedrill, their special attack stat doesn't matter at all. So when Game Freak designed Beedrill's Mega Evolution, they lowered it even further. Now it's got a base stat of just 15, which is even worse than its pre-evolution Weedle. That meant that they had even more points to dump into other stats, namely attack and speed. How do chameleons know what color to change their skin to?
I mean, surely they would be able to see the color of like whatever they're standing on or whatever they're standing next to.
They're not colorblind?
Why would they be, if their whole thing is changing colors? If all your stats are exactly the same, you're usually getting less mileage out of your base stat total, which we saw with Castform earlier. Even though these Pokemon have identical attack and special attack stats, it's often still better to pick one damage category or the other, and there are a couple of reasons for that. For one, it's not possible to maximize both stats at the same time. You can max out your EVs and IVs in physical and special attack, but natures can only raise one stat. You could pick a neutral nature like Sirius or Hardy, but then you won't max out either stat.
Sometimes one category just works better with the Pokemon's other tools. Gyraichai.
Oh my god.
Jirachi usually goes for physical moves because they synergize better with Serene Grace. Iron Head and Body Slam are an absolutely brutal combo. Broadly speaking, Arceus chooses different attacks depending on its type. If it's holding a plate, it'll invest in special attack because Judgment is a special move. If it's naked and you're using it as a normal type, it'll usually go for extreme killer mode and complement extreme speed with coverage moves like Shadow Claw and Earthquake.
In each of these cases, the other attacking stat isn't doing anything productive for you. If Arceus is running special moves, it would rather have, say, 100 attack and 140 special attack. Not only would it hit even harder, but it would also take less damage from confusion and foul play, and its opponents would heal less with Strength Sap.
Even though the stat spread is less than ideal in most cases, many of these Pokemon are able to succeed to some degree anyway, because they have other things going for them. Glalie has Moody, Mew has a million moves, Ditto can transform instantly, Manaphy has an incredible boosting option, and Jirachi is evil. Spinda is just kind of atrocious, but its spot patterns are neat, so that's something, right?
Arceus has the highest base stats out of this bunch, as well as a great ability, which helps make it one of the strongest Pokemon of all time. 120 in every stat is absolutely incredible, because many Pokemon don't even have one stat that high. Arceus can fill offensive or defensive roles, depending on what your team needs. A good stat spread is just one of the factors that make Pokemon strong. Arceus doesn't mind having balanced stats because number 1, they're so high, and number B, it's got a ton of other impressive attributes. Oh, they can see ultraviolet light. They can see more colors than we can.
Ah, they can see UV. So what does a chameleon actually look like?
Well, you mean like what color is it when it's born?
Or when it dies?
Well, you can go and find a dead chameleon and let me know.
No thanks.
Let me tell you, something about The Price is Right, fellas. They have you clapping and cheering and screaming for hours on end. By the end of the day, my friend Other Jacob had completely lost his voice.
You've just convinced me to never go to a game show in my life.
Well, I mean, it's mostly just The Price is Right that's like that. Like, if you go to a Jeopardy taping, you're not expected to scream at the top of your lungs.
Normally, this value is meant to be little endian, which means that the bytes should be read from left to right. I mean, from right to left.
Right to left, right to left.
I mean, from up to down. I mean, from down to up. What? I've streamed once.
He streamed once. Elias made, I think, cents from that stream.
Don't dox our earnings.
Elias made $100 million from his stream.
That's more like it.